Over the last year or so, we've conducted quite a number of interviews looking at how shark numbers, especially white sharks, how those numbers are dwindling in False Bay and the Cape South Coast. It appears, and we've spoken to many marine biologists about apparently it being the fault of a pot of orcas who have found a home, particularly here in False Bay, targeting sharks, presumably for their fatty livers. But in recent days, there have been a number of sightings of great whites in the False Bay area. 4 reported sightings just this last week. To understand a little bit more, Sarah Waries, CEO of Shark Spotters, really appreciate your time. Is it too early to say whether this is the return of great whites to False Bay? Of course, it benefits and it helps with the marine ecology of the False Bay area, but is it too early to say whether great whites are back?
Yes, I think it is. I mean, it's really exciting that we've had 4 sightings in a week, and we're all obviously really hoping that it signals a return of the sharks, but we just don't know. It might be that the conditions are particularly good in False Bay at the moment, and the sharks are just moving through. We're back in sort of 2015. We used to see up to 250 white shark sightings a year. So really, four in a week is not, we're not quite back at the levels that we were before. But hopefully it's a good sign. But definitely too early to tell whether it is a proper return or not.
If you could give us maybe a baseline of if this was 250 sightings in 2016, how busy have shark spotters been in particularly sighting great whites over the last year or so?
So since about 2017, we've seen a dramatic decrease in white shark activity and in white shark sightings by the spotters. And even in 2019 and 2020, we didn't have any reported sightings by the spotters. We had 1 or 2 from our research vessel. So it's gone sort of from having 250 odd sightings a year to nothing, and now having sporadic sightings. So certainly 4 sightings is exciting, but we've got a long way to go.
Exciting for marine ecologists. What has been the impact of the on the sightings or the presence of great whites in the False Bay area, particularly to the marine ecology?
Well, it's really, white sharks are apex predators. They play an important role in ecosystem structure and function. And so since the white sharks have left, we've seen some small changes in the ecosystem in terms of increases in numbers of other sharks like bronze whaler sharks and seven-gill sharks. And so it's interesting now to see what happens if the white sharks do return, if we see reductions in those numbers, or if we see other changes within the ecosystem. But having large predatory apex sharks like white sharks in False Bay is very important for the health of False Bay and the region.
Shark spotters have played a very, very important role over the last few years to raising the alerts, particularly for bathers and surfers. As you said, over the last 2 or 3 years, there have been very few to none sightings. Of course, we don't raise alarm at all, but does this mean that you go back to what you've been doing over the last few years, maintaining a vigilance, particularly on the False Bay coast?
Yes, so we've continued with that regardless of the number of white shark sightings, because obviously, and this week has been evidence of that you need somebody to monitor when the white sharks do come back. So the first 2 sightings this week were by the shark spotters, or last week were by the shark spotters. So we've been continuing to be vigilant throughout the time. What we're really asking now is that water users start to be more vigilant as well. I think we've got very complacent over the last few years. We started doing activities which we didn't used to do before, like swimming across False Bay or swimming in very deep water on our own, because there was a general feeling that, well, the white sharks aren't in False Bay, so that risk is reduced. And I think what we're really asking is that the public thinks about shark activity before they go in the water, thinks about things that they can do to reduce their risk, and make sure that they act responsibly to reduce the possibility of any shark bites.
Through some coincidence in our planning, we're actually going to be speaking to a 16-year-old, Amber Rose Berry, who actually just a short while ago did the Trans False Bay swim. So we'll be speaking to her just after 8 o'clock this morning. But Sarah Waries, CEO of the Shark Spotters, really appreciate your time. No sharks spotted between 2018 and 2022, going from 250 sightings here in 2016. No sharks spotted in the False Bay, but just over the last 7 days, 4 sightings of great whites in the False Bay area. It's great for marine coastal ecology, but also it means that more vigilance on our beaches. No alarm, just vigilance from our bathers and surfers and our water users.